Really Big Show with Jim Check and Ian Burns.
I'm Jim Check, with me Ian Burns. We're here with the Really Big Show. Welcome back to the work week. A little bit of a scramble this morning as we're getting ready to go here. The Desert Fox called in. Can't make it, but we got Nick on the board there, so hopefully it's not a bumpy ride, but he's done it enough times here. So our headline this morning, though: Canada rich on paper, reality, not so much. Not so much. Imagine that, eh? I'm fighting with some of the tech stuff here myself here as we mumble through this here. I just want to share some stuff. We do have some moderators now. We did our Thinking Canadians on the weekend. On Friday. And we got a few of them that volunteered. So they're the ones marked in blue. That's awesome. And then also we got a little message from vidIQ, which we use. Some of the things says we're in the top 10 of creators here, with over close to 500,000 views this week, or last week, I guess. Impressive. There you go. Our headline.
Flying.
What's that?
Flying.
Our headline: Canada rich on paper, but in reality, not so much. And I'm going to play a clip here from David Lynn and this Mario Narwhal here, Nawful. He's got like 3.2 million followers. And David Lynn, one of the best financial guys on the in the financial scene, used to run on Kitco, used to anchor kitco.com, now off on his own. But listen to what David Lynn has to say. One of the smartest guys in the financial sector on resources here in Canada. But he shares something here that's really interesting.
There's a few guests making that argument that the US always knew, and usually it's economists or traders, commodity traders that make these, that have these theories, that the US knew Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz all along, which everyone knew is going to happen. Like for me, that would be weird if the US did not know that's going to happen. And while in absolute terms, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is bad, net bad for the US economy and the global economy, in relative terms, the US is benefiting as a net exporter of natural gas and of as the biggest oil producer. Could this be true? Relative to the rest of the world, is the US economy doing better off from the closure of the Hormuz Straits, or just as bad, if not worse?
Well, let's look at the countries benefiting from this directly. The US, like you said, is producing oil. Russia is benefiting from this. Sanctions have been lifted from Russia to alleviate some of the stress that would come from the Strait of Hormuz closure. Is the U.S. doing better than the rest of the world? I can't answer that for the rest of the world. I can certainly answer that from a Canadian perspective. It's doing a lot better than Canada, for example. Canada is the only G7 country that is now in a technical recession. The government has not used that word. I find it very interesting that the CBC, which is owned partly by the government and funded by the government, has not been shy to literally just call it a technical recession. It's 2 quarters of contracting real GDP this quarter and the quarter prior. This is the only G7 countries that's in this state. Now, why is that? Canada has one of the largest natural gas and oil reserves in the world. Canada has one of the largest reserves of precious metals and critical minerals. So what happened? Well, none of this is being extracted at a pace that's necessary to sustain the deficit in oil. And so the Canadian government, although resource rich, is only resource rich on paper. And I've had this discussion with many of my guests. What needs to be done? What needs to be done to meet the demand of critical minerals? I'm going a little off topic. I'll go back to your question. But what needs to be done? What needs to be done to meet the demand of critical minerals from the AI build out and other things, the electrification of the world? Copper was just named a critical mineral last year by the United States government, and a host of other minerals, critical minerals, has been blocked for export by China. Recently, they've pulled back on that a little bit because the the trade war has de-escalated somewhat. But Canada and much of the United States is in a unique position to be very rich in minerals in the ground, but they've relied on Chinese refineries and importing their raw materials from overseas for too long. And you can't just turn a mine on overnight. This needs to be addressed now because it takes 10 to 15 years to start a mine and start operations. So going back to your question, Canada is not doing as well as the U.S. The U.S. is doing better than European countries. Growth is higher in the U.S. than most in the EU. And I would say that the U.S. is more resilient to the higher oil prices than in Asia, because the U.S. has the ability to at least produce their own oil and be less reliant on the Gulf countries, whereas Asian countries not so much. China
What about
has
comparing to China? Yeah, I'd love to get a comparison to China.
China has spent the last decade preparing for, I don't want to say this particular crisis, but a scenario like this. Think about their entire model of producing cars. They've
Main point of that is that Canada's super rich on paper. What's blocking that though? What's blocking those riches? And it's policy, it's leadership. And we're going to show you a lot of that. A lot of those receipts again. What's blocking it? Self-inflicted pain. This is, again, we've said it on the show how many times. This is Canada's time to shine. And America's in the catbird seat, and Canada continues to get in its own way. Here's Bloomberg here with a BNN Bloomberg. Canada and U.S. economies on different tracks. I mean, that's pretty obvious, right? Pretty obvious. Why is that?
Is this article from 2015?
Yeah. And then here's Mark Carney. We're going to play a little bit of this. I wanted to cut away to the middle somewhere, but we're going to play it. We'll let it go a little bit here as Mark Carney is trying to explain, some of this stuff here. Maybe put it on 1.5 times, Nick. Speed her up.
CTV, Prime Minister. Just back to the bourbon ban. Last time I checked...
Was he? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, last time I checked, Mr. Ford has a fair amount of control over the LCBO, even though I appreciate it's independent. But you told him to cool it on the ad that caused a lot of trouble. What if this alcohol thing...
And how did that work? Did he listen?
Yeah. But what if this alcohol thing...
I was right, by the way.
Well, what if this alcohol thing becomes more than an irritant? Look, you know what's an irritant? 50% tariff on steel, 50% tariff on aluminum, 25% tariff on automobiles. All the tariffs on forest products. Those are more than irritants. Those are violations of our trade deal. Okay? The client of American producers, which ultimately there's a board for the LCBO, for the SAQ, for the Manitoba. Manitoba, there's not just one. Huh? They make those decisions. And they make those decisions in a judgment. Yes, there's different governance structures. And yes, surprise, surprise, the Premier of Ontario is influential with the LCBO. Okay. But he's the client. He's also the duly elected Premier of Ontario. He's got a majority. And he's taking a view, which, by most indications is supported by the vast majority of the population. What we want to do is make progress as the whole. These issues such as decisions on which alcohol to put on the shelves, we can make progress very quickly on that, with progress with in other areas. And I will just underscore, we understand that and this is the point I've been making since day one, is that this long period of integration, deeper integration between Canada and the United States is over, that nostalgia isn't a strategy, that hope isn't a strategy. We're not going to go back to exactly the way things were. The U.S. has changed. So they're right, they've changed, but we're looking to negotiate something mutually agreeable, and there will be adjustments there. When we make progress on that, I'm so confident that we will make progress, but and then those judgments will be made by the provinces, and we'll encourage those judgments, but follow
don't have anything now.
Just and quickly.
I mean, it's the same stuff over and over again. There's a rupture, there's this, there's that, we'll never go back. Nostalgia is not a thing. Yet, I mean, the reality of the situation is we need Kuzma. We need it in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
And then
It's all just very tedious, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's the same stuff, but no progress, right? No progress. That's the big part. No progress. And then I think, this whole weekend, the Liberals and the media spinning the groceries thing and spinning the recession, non-recession, and how and somehow they figured out a way to make Pierre Poilievre the enemy in all this, which is surprising, which was just quite shocking, actually. They ended up making Poilievre they called him what? The a-hole the chief a-hole officer of Canada or something like that. I mean, talk about branding.
That was conservative strategist. What's his name?
Tenike.
Rory Tenike.
Tenike, yeah.
He's the one that said that on a panel that supposedly represented all perspectives, all political perspectives in Canada, but they all, for some reason, agreed that Polyev is a wanker. It's just like, wow, what a coincidence! And they all basically endorsed everything Mark Carney does and says.
Yeah, I know, it's quite shocking, actually, that I think we actually have that clip too. But here's CBC, though, defending this recession here, or trying to paint a different picture.
That is an economy.
Yeah, things are kind of stuck, right? Yep. You know, is where it is. And I just wonder, you know, look, I don't know if it's going to end the political debate about a recession, but, you know, we saw C.D. Howe weigh in today. We saw you don't create 88,000 jobs if you're in a recession. So what does this do to the whole argument?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think you're quite right to say it probably won't put it to bed, though it probably should. I snuck into the Front Burner studios this week and did an episode for them I spoke to Frances Donald, the chief economist at RBC, in which, David, she basically spent the entire episode yelling at me, saying, this isn't a recession. It doesn't meet the definition. If you look at all the data, it's not a recession. Stop calling it a recession. And then I kept saying, but will it turn into a recession? And she yelled at me more and say it's not a recession. And she's right. But the fat is an economy.
Yeah, things are kind of...
That's just one sampling of it. I mean, it's all over that CBC and the rest of them, CTV, trying to play it out like that it's only Pierre Poilievre using politics that drive this in recession, not the reality of the situation. One, better job numbers? I don't know.
And did he just say it's not a recession? This guy,
yeah,
CBC senior business reporter, says it's not a recession. 2 quarters GDP decline is not a recession.
Redefining.
What is a recession then? You know, like I've said, economics is not science. Economics is vibes with numbers. So no surprises that economics is absolutely beloved of frauds and tricksters all around the world because they can do things like this. There is no strict definition of a recession. There's just a commonly understood idea that most people involved in economics or business understand, which is 2 quarters of decline. So if that's not a recession, Peter Armstrong, CBC senior business reporter, then what is? You're gonna have to tell us what it is. If this ain't it, what is then? But obviously that's not happened. We've not seen anything like that, have we? We keep hearing them talking about all these other economic indicators. Okay, explain. Give me a definitive, you know, straightforward, single sentence definition of a recession. But they won't do that.
I think we got a little bit of audio issues with Ian's mic there. I don't want to check that, Nick. Everybody's saying Ian's got an echo. Maybe we can play the next clip. You can jump in and out. Maybe that'll help too. I imagine if the Conservatives were in power, this would be a recession, though.
Well, it was already, wasn't it? In the that Harper recession that we looked at.
Here's the problem. Here's the big problem. Is we showed you last week that they've already slowed down that they're supposed to do these things. They're already slowing stuff down, climate red tape. Ottawa and Alberta deal continues to strangle energy sector with climate red tape. I mean, there's more and more of this. More costs. It costs more jobs and more of the same. You know, that's from Poilievre. Conservatives fighting to get Canada's resources, green lighting. Well, what's the purpose of the Major Projects Office if not to rush things along? Like, what was the purpose of Bill C-5? And now they're pumping the brakes again.
To, to gain power, to concentrate more power in the hands of Mark Carney, who doesn't trust anybody else or any other institutions to do the right thing, because he doesn't really believe in that form of governance, as far as I can tell.
And then here's another clip here talking about British Columbia here. I'm going to switch some things around when we play this clip here, though, too. Let's play this clip here.
Northwestern BC, already home to some of the province's most valuable mines, while existing projects continue.
It's just running like that.
The government is extending a freeze on new mineral claims across large swaths of the region. The government says it needs more time to complete land use planning with First Nations input. The exploration industry says companies want clearer timelines.
Explorers are tired of waking up and wondering if government's going to shut them down or restrict their access in more areas around the province.
The Business Council of BC says the move only adds to concerns about permitting delays and investor uncertainty.
If companies are unsure whether they can access land, whether they can advance work, whether they can rely on stable and predictable rules, then that investment becomes much, much harder to attract.
The province says existing claims and exploration projects are unaffected. In a statement saying the planning process will provide long-term certainty for First Nations, communities, and industry.
This is just one of a series of measures that this NDP government has undertaken to restrict access to land for mineral exploration. At the same time that the Premier in this government talks about British Columbia becoming a critical mineral superpower. You can't have it both ways.
Hanging over the debate is the province's appeal of the Gitga'athla mineral rights case. The Supreme Court of Canada expected to have a decision early next year. Well, the exploration freeze now remains in place until January 2027.
I mean, we just can't get out of our own way.
Yeah. Well, it's about priorities, isn't it? It's about what you dedicate your society to and the energy within your society to. And in Canada, and particularly in British Columbia, in the hierarchy of priorities, whatever this is, I guess people would call it reconciliation. I don't know how many people would agree with that, but some people would call it reconciliation. That is higher in the list of priorities than national security, geopolitics, national wealth, etc. You know, I mean, name whatever you want. That thing, that amorphous blob that people call reconciliation, is higher up the list than all of those things. And until that changes, don't expect people in British Columbia or Canada to suddenly figure out what they need to do and change their ways.
And this one here, we talked about it last week. CTV put this out. Ottawa pumps brake on proposed changes to major project environmental reviews. I mean, we're going to build at a rate never seen. We're going to build the fastest we've ever seen. We're going to build like it's wartime. Are we?
No.
Because if we were at war, we'd be losing right now.
Obviously not.
We'd be losing right now. We'd be tripping over ourselves.
Ironically, the country that we're at war with, according to the Liberal Party, which is the United States, because that country is in fact not our enemy in war, but instead our sort of benefactor and daddy, we don't have to worry about things like this because daddy's going to take care of it. It doesn't matter. Even though we're upset with daddy, we slammed the door and we said, "Stay out of my room, dad." We're really upset because he tried to take our pocket money away from us. At the end of the day, that's still in the amygdala of our elite. America will look after us. We don't have to be a serious country. It's okay. We don't need to do that. Daddy's still here. Daddy's still in the house. It's fine. And again, I mean, I just said that about reconciliation. This is the other thing. Until that mentality is swept away, don't expect anything to get built. You know, that's another thing. Don't expect responsible government in the true meaning of that term. Government where you actually take responsibility for yourself. Don't expect that anytime soon.
And here's somebody that tweeted this, and I just put it up because I couldn't agree more. The President of the United States is responsible for everything bad happening to Canada, and Mark Carney is not responsible for anything.
Sorry, I'm trying to get this. I'll just, rather than write it down, I'll just tell Nick. I think you need to turn your volume down on your end because you're hearing me, I think, and then it's loud enough to trigger your microphone and it's causing an echo, according to the good folks in the comments.
Here's one that should get you angry here, if you're not angry yet. That Phantom Railway, Alto, they already have 13 vice presidents for a railway. Can you believe it? $4 billion has been set aside. I think it's over $4 billion has been set aside for the planning. $4.3 billion, sorry. $4.3 billion has been set aside. And it already has 13 vice presidents. They don't even care anymore. They don't even care anymore. It's just so blatant. They're just right there in the open because there's no accountability. And they've already spent $1.6 million advertising this regional high-speed rail service that doesn't exist, records show. And it has 13 vice presidents. Can you believe that? 13 vice presidents for a railroad that doesn't exist. I bet you there's running railroads in the world that don't have 13 vice presidents. And Steve McKinnon, we're so proud to be pursuing the development of high-speed rail throughout Canada. The Alto spent $265 million of the $4.3 billion budgeted to date. They've already spent that. On what?
It's just hilarious, isn't it? But like I said, this is just going to be the omnipot. This is going to be the omnipurse for anything and everything. Anybody you want to reward, any friends, anybody that's done you a favor, they're just going to get some out of this pot.
This is that slush money, slush pile, kind of like the green scheme down in the United States where they're piling billions of dollars. Like the railroad already has 216 employees doing what we don't know, 13 vice presidents, 44 directors, and 7 managers.
One of whom is, what, Francois Philippe Champagne's wife?
Yes. It's right now it's $90 billion for this electrified 300 kilometer an hour rail service from Toronto to Peterborough, to Ottawa, to Laval, Montreal, Trois-Rivières, and Quebec City. And it's going to take, the first leg alone will take some 7 years and some $18 billion more than they've already budgeted. Okay. 13 vice presidents? 13.
Didn't we do a story last week about how they got a bonus as well?
They got a bonus, yeah. They already doled out bonuses.
The question to ask Francois Philippe Champagne is, what did the Champagne household do with that bonus? What have you spent your bonus on, just out of interest? You know, since we kind of paid for that. Could you explain?
Well, they went shopping.
He went to Food Basics. He blew his entire bonus, his wife's entire bonus, at Food Basics, buying only Canadian. So maybe he's learned his lesson.
How's the audio now, everybody? And
well, nobody's complaining now.
What's that?
Nobody's complaining anymore.
This one here is around June is the day you get to start working for yourself. So you work almost half a year for the government so they can hire 13 vice presidents and dole out bonuses for a railroad that doesn't exist. So today is the day you get to work for yourself. For all that, you gave all that money you worked so far is for the government to dole out to various schemes. Like, who's angry now? Like, how aren't you angry? People that don't have enough, people that don't have enough, give to those that have too much, and they just take more and more and more. 13 vice presidents? Like, any corporation in the world right now shouldn't have 13 vice presidents. Vice president of what?
It's amazing when you compare, again, just for the little historical insight, if anybody's interested. Probably nobody is. But when you look at the past, and you look at, for example, the very unfashionable East India Company, which was the company founded in England that went and conquered India, basically, and administered India and other parts of South Asia for quite a while. Just have a read. Again, the great thing is I don't even have to expand much on this. Just go onto ChatGPT or something, or Grok or whatever it is you use, and inquire about how many administrators they had, how many managers or vice presidents, for want of a better word. Just have a look at what they did. And that wasn't just that. That's a private company. Look at like the Foreign Office in Britain, when Britain had the world's largest empire in the history of humanity. The largest empire, the largest navy, etc., etc., etc. All this stuff. Look how many managers they had. You'll be amazed, I tell you. A lot fewer, I think, than Alto has, which is, I don't know. I mean, it kind of, when you look at the two organizations and the efficiency and the success of each one, compare. I mean, it seems to be that the more chefs you have, the worse the pie turns out.
So before Justin Trudeau and the rest left, they created this big, fat sow, like this immense sow, that now there's so many piglets suckling at there and suckling at this massive sow that doesn't have to do anything, that they know it's going to be 10, 15, 20 years out into the future. So they're gonna feed this sow with your tax dollars. They're just gonna feed it, and they're all gonna suckle at it for decades. They're gonna suckle at this massive sow, and at the end of the day, it's probably gonna be way over budget and not done. It's like they bought the plan from California. How many billions of dollars has California spent and not put 1 foot of rail down on the ground?
I mean, that's probably the most notorious example in the world, isn't it? I would say. I mean, talk about great civilizational failures. That has to be up there, doesn't it?
Or maybe it's not a failure.
Like when you
maybe
read about that, when you read about that LA to San Francisco railway line that is, God knows how long that's been going on. How you read about the failures. That's when you start to think, maybe America's not going to win. Like maybe China's actually going to win this sort of civilizational fight that's going on now. I sort of, if people are unfamiliar with that, I implore you to have a read. It's just unfathomable how worthless and stupid those people are involved in that, and corrupt probably more than anything. But well, here we are. We're no better, really, are we?
It's likely a great scheme if you think about it. Like, how do we create a way to steal from the taxpayer and make it seem like they want it, like that they're begging for it? And we create this massive sow, and then we create all these teats, and they all suckle. And the taxpayer, what does he get? We know what the taxpayer
I mean, it's just too on the nose, isn't it? It's like, it's almost like too crass that you wouldn't even put it in a TV show. You wouldn't put it in a novel. The greatest boondoggle in the history of Canada, or what appears to be the greatest project with the most money, and one of the managers involved in it, one of the people sucking at that teat, is the wife of the finance minister. You know, if I was writing a script for a TV show about corruption in a country, I wouldn't do that. I can imagine being in the writer's room and it's like, nah, that's too on the nose. Like, let's make it a bit more subtle than that. Like, somebody chimes in with Spaceballs. It's just like, no, we want this to be subtle. We want this to be realistic. We don't want a cartoon version.
It's crazy. It's like, and CBC, I'm sure, is covering this story on the 13 VPs. I'm sure they're all over this story, right? The former CAF, Canadian Armed Forces head, warns against pivoting to China at the expense of the United States. And this is former General Wayne Ear, who's now retired, explained that Canada and the U.S. are neighbors and we share a continent, and that's not going away. Geography matters. My globe is way far away. Do you have your globe handy? For the die-hard lunatics out there that wish to move Canada to Europe. I don't know what kind of moving van. Maybe we could create another Alto project where they're going to actually move Canada, get some tectonic plate movers out, and move it.
Or alternatively, we can move it over here.
Yeah. 50-50.
We'll move it here.
Maybe move half there and half there. I do want to take a minute and say we got some great guests this week coming up. We have Sam Cooper on Thursday. And we have Aaron Pete from Stitka Media on Friday, and I understand somebody else is booking in too, so I won't say it till it's booked in, but got some great guests booking in. But I mean, I wonder if this general was crying and talking about racism. Maybe
This
we
is
should
the
get this
guy,
general back.
Our interview with Brian Isted, the first one, he talks about this guy being like a careerist who was willing to spout bollocks. So, but then again, you know, even sort of people that aren't particularly astute or admirable can still say things that are accurate and true, like this. So I'm not gonna attack General Air here, but what he's saying is hardly this is
Rocket
hardly
science.
like recondite opinions. This is not something that's come out of the warlocks secret lair where they've been trying to put really arcane knowledge together. This is like the most basic knowledge that everybody involved in any kind of government in this country should know. This is just like absolute basic geopolitics. America will always be there, always matters. You should never sacrifice your relationship with the United States for any country. If you're a leader of this country, no other country on this planet should come even close. It is the hallowed relationship. And like I said before, almost like a majority of a prime minister's job is making sure that Canada's on good terms with the United States. It's just, I mean, it's like geopolitics for babies. It's geopolitics for toddlers. The fact that he said this and it's like a headline and everything and it's like a news story, it just goes to show how ignorant our leaders are of geopolitics, the most basic rules of geopolitics.
Imagine how many countries would trade places with us for geography. Just imagine how many people would trade. I bet you every European country would trade all its nations people for Canada, for their nation, and just say, okay, everybody switch places. I mean, you'd have to be a fool not to want this. Next to the world's largest economy, next to the world's largest consumer, next to the world's currency, and protected under the umbrella of the strongest military that has ever existed on this planet, And some of the biggest innovators, like, I mean, you could go on, the list could go on and on and on and on, and yet you have a CEO or leader of this country talking about how it's a rupture and how we need to move away from this and move towards China and move towards Europe. It's absolutely...
Well, and also the attitude is kind of, oh, well, you know, they don't want to do it, so we're in no rush. Like, they can take it or leave it kind of thing. Like that sort of haughty attitude to the United States. I mean, I understand to a certain extent he's putting on a show. But the point I've been trying to make, and I think you have too, is if they can't fool us, what makes them think that they can fool the White House and the US State Department? Really? What makes you think you can fool them? You can't even fool us. Is it a good strategy, therefore? You know what I mean? It's like, but that's sort of one way that you might attempt to defend Carney. So look, he's trying to sort of drive a hard bargain. But nobody believes him because of what this chap's saying here. Geopolitics 101. Like I said, it's not even that. It's geopolitics for toddlers. This is like Peppa Pig does geopolitics. That's how obvious this is.
Peppa Pig,
so you think the State Department is like, oh, what's Carney going to do? Are the Canadians going to have a permanent relationship with China? No, they're not. Obviously, they don't think that. They know what's going to happen. And you're saying like Europeans would, or other countries would swap their position for our position. That sort of hits on something that's really important. It's not possible to swap. Like those hypotheticals, to an extent, aren't really instructive. The most instructive thing is to remember that we can't move land. There is no movement. We're not leaving. Like, this is it. This is our only option. It's the only option we're ever going to have because we are literally joined with that country physically as well as culturally and in every other way. So it's like we're talking about that. It almost creates the sort of daft illusion that it's possible to swap, but it isn't, which is why we shouldn't even be talking about things like Europe and China, because that's just a ridiculous joke. Because we're going to be stuck to the United States for the next, I don't know what, 20 million years or something like that, whenever the tectonic plates move again. I don't know when that's forecast to be, but it's going to be like, I think humanity will be long gone by the time that happens.
You have to again wonder how much influence the Democratic Party of the United States has influence over the Liberal Party of Canada, because a lot of it looks like it's the same type of rhetoric there. Mark Carney, though, ready for another flight. This flight tonight, he leaves June 15th to the 17th, France, as he's heading to Europe on Thursday, visiting Ireland and France for the G7 summit.
I wonder what it's going to be like. He's going to have a terrible time at customs, isn't he? Because he was an Irish citizen for so long. He claims that he's got rid of it, but I haven't seen any confirmation anywhere that he is officially no longer an Irish citizen. He might actually still be one. World leaders, when they promised to get rid of citizenships in the past, have not done so. So I would not be completely surprised if he hadn't got rid of it. But what happens when he goes there and it's like, passport, please? It's like, it says here you're an Irish citizen. What are you doing back here? Is he going to explain himself? But yeah, I don't know. He's going there apparently to try and shore up trade, the trade relationship between Ireland and Canada, which is very, very small, basically nothing. But I think he's also trying to push the Irish to give their official backing to the free trade deal between the European Union and Canada, which has not yet been formally implemented.
You mean an MOU? The MOU?
Something like that. Probably,
and also, just as Catherine Swift said, everywhere that Mark Carney goes, Brookfield sure to follow, or the other way around, because who's there in France right now? Brookfield announced an additional 10 billion euro investment in France, focused on AI and infrastructure. Wild, eh? Why not? Good timing. Great timing, as usual. And then, like I said, this is just the media doing their best to like downplay this recession. Too soon to call a recession, rules Canadian Authority on Economic Downturns, says expert, eh?
Look, if anyone's in doubt, right, people have been talking about Harper and stuff. What would this be like under Harper? Don't even think about that. Just imagine, what would CTV, CBC, and all the rest of these gobshites, what would they be saying? What kind of articles would they be writing if the exact same GDP figures came out of Donald Trump's USA? Just think about that for a minute. And if you genuinely think deep down in your heart that they'd be writing the same stories saying, it's not really, it's too soon to say Trump's America's in a recession. Authorities say that that's not. Like, if you honestly think that, then good luck to you. Good luck to you for the rest of your life, because you're going to need it.
According to this poll, Carney's approval falls noticeably as Liberal momentum clearly slowed and may be reversed, and that's according to the pollster from Abacus there. The survey still found Liberals ahead of the Tories by 44 to 36, and the NDP at 11%. The pollster explained after several ways in which virtually every indicator moved in the government's favor, the momentum is clearly slowed and may be reversed. I mean, polls are polls, right?
Yeah, still, it is still interesting that he said this, old Abacus man. Because it's not what the Leger poll. The Leger poll shows him at like, it's like the greatest ever time to be a Liberal, basically. Yeah. Like, everybody loves Carney. Whereas he's seeing things, he's looking under the hood a little bit and seeing certain things. But I mean, either way, they're still way ahead of the Conservatives. So it's not exactly like, it's not like the wheels have fallen off or anything like that. He's just looking at momentum. And he thinks that maybe, I guess what he's saying is maybe the Carney meme has peaked. But I don't know, I have to admit, I kind of thought it had peaked a couple of months ago, about whenever, I think it was a couple of months ago. But that wasn't the case. He kept pulling rabbits out of the hat, so I don't know. But obviously he's going to peak at some point. He's not just going to go all the way up to 100%. There has to be a peak at some point.
We're going to skip that next story, and we're going to go to Corey. You got your buddy Corey here. We're going to listen to Corey here. I think I have the clip here, don't I? Do I have it? I think it's down here further. That's the clip there. I think that's it there. Yeah, play that clip.
To lay some, plant some seeds. But I also largely agree with Scott that the seeds they're planting are the wrong ones in terms of tone. I think you want to be pointing this stuff out, but with like sadness and regret, with a solemn tone, and put the focus on delivering results. Where I think that's where the Carney government is going to be, to Tom's point, more vulnerable over time if they don't actually get the resource projects done. Those sorts of things. I think that's a better vector of attack, because I think the one that they're on right now looks like Polyev is applying to be a-hole in chief, and I just don't think that's the way to get more popular with the public. It doesn't improve your favorabilities to look like a jerk all the time, and I think he's at risk of doing that.
That panel of that, hey? All smirky smirks.
They all kind of look like the same person at slightly different stages of their lives, don't they? But yeah, I mean, as usual, I don't know, I feel like the most interesting person is old Tom there. He's usually I think he is probably the most intelligent person that they ever get on there. The other two are a bit funny. I feel like this Corey chap, he carries a few grudges, doesn't he? Can't help but.
Yeah, he also,
they
finally put up his lobby company there, Rubicon there. They finally put that up there too, because he also lobbies for PetroChina. His company lobbies for PetroChina. So it's kind of weird. He's part of a lobby group, and he's lobbying the Liberal government. At the same time, he's a supposed conservative. He is the conservative they reach out to, who's like probably the most anti-Pierre Poilievre guy out there. So that's who they get to go on the show to defend Pierre Poilievre.
No. It's not. Yeah, there's obviously there are like splits on the right in Canada, way more than there are on the Liberal left. The Liberal left in Canada, Stephen Guilbeault notwithstanding, are pretty sort of aligned, aren't they? They're really behind their boy. They're giving him every chance. Except, as I say, for Stevie. But even then, Stephen Guilbeault he's not like setting off bombs, is he? He's just sort of gone in a very kind of a friendly way. It's a very friendly departure from Steve. But that's the problem, isn't it, with the right in Canada? Because the right is the kind of historical opposition in this country, whereas the Liberal left is the historical government, I guess, given at least over the last century or so. And oppositions can often be fragmented. So, Corey, that's all you are, mate.
So Corey was also part of Caroline Elliott's campaign, and lots of people said that possibly the reason she lost too, but possibly the reason she got to where she was as well. But there's a lot of people that didn't trust Corey as being part of the machine. And sounds like these guys aren't going to disappear. Somebody's putting this out here that they're going to try and revive the old BC Liberals as well. Because you're right, you just said that. The fractures in the BC Conservative Party, you're starting to see that show up here as maybe they're reviving the BC Liberals, which would be the greatest thing ever for David Eby, who would be just, should be in the basement, but, like if they keep fighting on the right there, I mean, they just hand it to him. Go to the next slide there. Andrew Weaver, I mean, this is a guy putting this out there, but I mean, there has been pushback from Eleanor Sturko. There's been pushback from Amelia Boltby. I've seen that on X there. Both of them saying they're not exactly happy with the selection of the new Conservative leader. Cybersecurity Bill C8 law. The Senate passed into law. Cybersecurity bill written by critics with greater privacy protection. The measure in final debate was rated better than none. And Senator Denise Batters from Saskatchewan says it's legislation long overdue. Our critical system is currently vulnerable to attack, and it's better to have at least the basic protections in place. That's from the senator. I have some sympathy for the arguments. A dangerous, fast-paced world and global cyber threats seem to be only accelerating at breakneck speed. The right to privacy is really one of the most fundamental constitutional rights for Canadians, the ability to choose what thoughts, beliefs are in our minds and hearts and what we share with the external world. These can be very grave, life-altering consequences if one's privacy is sacrificed. That's kind of weird. On one hand, they're doing this bill. On the other hand, they want access to your devices. Hey? C-22.
It's ridiculous. The ability to choose what thoughts and beliefs in our minds and hearts we share with the external world. Meanwhile, we're going to seize your ChatGPT records and basically shine a light inside of your brain and read your mind.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Here we got this one, C8.
We'll go to trial probably, and we'll publish all those documents. So yeah, the entire world will indeed see literally what's in your head, things that you've not even spoken. They're coming for it.
So the Conservatives play this card. They're just like, Bill C8 protects you for privacy. And then they throw down the other card, C22. Well, I'll trump that card. And we're just going to open that all up for you. This AI strategy is another boondoggle waiting to happen. Listen to Mark Carney on AI, AIEIO.
For AI to benefit Canadians, it needs to create new opportunities for us and to be anchored in infrastructure that Canadians can control. Under our strategy, the government will introduce new legislation, regulations and standards to protect your data, your privacy, your children. We will modernize Canada's privacy laws and online safety legislation, ensuring that they are fit for an AI-driven world. We will expand Canada's AI Safety Institute with advanced research to evaluate AI models and to track emerging risks. Our strategy, AI for All, is designed to put Canadians back in control, to build trust, to seize opportunities, and above all, to harness AI to improve lives and indeed to save them.
All I heard was regulation, 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 and more government spending on regulation, regulation. I didn't hear the word innovation. And we heard it last week, all the boondoggle of how they're going to do this thing with all these groups. So AI by committee in Canada. AI by committee in Canada by people that don't know nothing about AI. Led by none other than Evan Solomon, failed art dealer and failed journalist.
Although he reached the pinnacle of journalism, didn't he, in Canada?
Holly Doan from Blacklog says, does it work for creators, authors, journalists? They're saying no.
And she's tagged Margaret Atwood there. Big Maggie.
Here's a little plug for us, Bill C-18. There's a young lady talking to Pierre Poilievre on Bill C-18.
One thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm really grateful to have this opportunity, like I'm 25 years old, and so I deal with a lot of the younger generation. I have a lot of younger friends as well because I'm doing my bachelor with a little bit of a gap year as well. So I'm really concerned for my generation and the youth in general because as you mentioned yourself actually while you were speaking, they don't have access to real information and facts. A lot of what is being spread online is misinformation and propaganda. And people tend to adopt other people's opinions rather than do their own research and get to their own consensus. And the thing that really bugs me specifically with Canada is Bill C-11. The fact that all of us are on social media, that's where people are getting their political opinions and political news and information from currently. TikTok being a crazy, just a black hole of information right now. And the actual valid news channels and, credible sources are not seen on our phones. We can't see it on Instagram. We can't see it on Facebook.
Yep.
We can't even see like non-profit organizations for some of them if they're like heavily political or
I'm
whatever.
going to get rid of those bills.
That is
Let it
my
have-
biggest concern, and I don't understand why it's not being talked about. And again, I feel like it's kind of like working hand in hand. When the news is not there for people to like even be aware of what's going on around them, they're not going to talk about it. They're going to be misinformed, not going to vote correctly.
Exactly.
Like that's how you're actually influencing voting results.
We need to have free speech and
Yeah.
allow free expression online. So I'm going to get rid of C11, C18. C11, by the way, it's not just the censorship, but now they're using it as a tool to increase the Netflix tax. You have to pay more taxes just to watch Netflix.
Great, I didn't know about
Yeah, they just came out in the last 2 days. They call it the streaming tax. So I'm going to get rid of all the.
It's been a long road with C18 for us. A long, long road as free and independent media here gets crushed in Canada. And it's because they don't want to talk about it. The media doesn't want to talk about it because they're busy at the bowl there, lapping it up, suckling at the teat of the big sow they created there. I guess that's a mini sow compared to Alto. Like it's a baby pig, right? It's a pygmy pig.
Piglet.
Piglets. Piglets. Antitrust probe hits Sobeys. Antitrust lawyers asking, because remember we have an oligopoly here in Canada with our food outlets. Antitrust lawyers asking federal judge to compel disclosure of confidential terms of leases held by one of the nation's largest grocery stores. Sobeys accused of breaching the Competition Act by negotiating restrictive clauses in leases with mall owners, which is typically where they say, if we're in here, nobody else can come in here. Empire Company has engaging in anti-competitive conduct by controlling available real estate through the use of property controls. That's the problem in Canada. And the food professor says it many times. Not enough competition. We show you the prices in the United States. More competition leads to better pricing. Yet in Canada, there's oligopolies here that seem to be just fine doing what they're doing. Banking, grocery stores, our cell phones. And they make out like bandits when you compare to the United States because they don't have to compete. And then even though they have like an oligopoly, they still end up cheating. Look at the bread cartel. The bread thing they did, fixing the bread prices. And then they were supposed to give the money back. We showed you that story last week. We're getting $50 back, and now wondering where the 75 went of the $5 billion that was supposed to be redistributed back to the people. Here's another thing, we've been talking about this Royal Milk scandal here. I don't know if it's a scandal yet. It should be a scandal if it's not. China's Canada Royal Milk in Kingston. EDC, the Federal Crown Corporation, has loaned Canada Royal Milk between $100 million and $250 million to support foreign direct investment. Remember the thing is, like we talked about this last week, 70% of the milk, the formula, goes to China. So a Chinese company came here and built this factory or bought this factory, got a loan from Canada, and then shipped the milk to China. And all of it under the supply management too. This one is starting to stink a little bit. Like this is starting to smell like a really rotting corpse of a fish. And who's doing the story? Is it CBC? No, it's a food professor. The food professor does probably more stories. He's probably one of the best journalists in food compared to the whole CBC, CTV, and Global combined. He breaks more stories. And supply management too. He's the only one that has like honest discussions on supply management.
Which is insane when you think about the resources at the CBC. Rather makes one question what they're doing with all that money.
I mean the 1.6 billion they have this year? Well, it's not even 1.6 billion. It's 1.6 billion out of your pocket. Plus they do about they do about 400 million themselves. Okay? You know what I mean? Like they managed to scrape that out by, they're not supposed to take advertising dollars, but they do as well. Plus they took money from Google, Plus, right? Plus they take that streaming tax money. Another one from the food
CBC,
professor.
the ads on their website is one of the worst websites you can go on to look for news. Like they slap like 2 video ads on videos that they put in stories, and it's just like sometimes it's not even a video that's unique to them. They've just taken it from somewhere else. I mean, it's so cynical.
Here's another one. Think chicken prices high now, wait till summer. And this is from the food professor as well, the next slide there. Canadians paying record prices for chicken while importing massive quantities of foreign poultry, mostly from the US. Canada has already imported more than 52 million kilos of chicken so far this year under WTO, CUSMA, and CPTPP commitments combined. Nearly 23 million kilos came directly from the United States under CUSMA alone. Under supply management, which controls domestic production through quotas, that restricts most foreign competition through high import tariffs. So we pay more. Canadians are promised something very different, stable supply, mostly domestic production and predictable prices. Instead, Canada now faces one of the tightest chicken markets in decades. Supply management is crushing the consumer in Canada, literally crushing the consumer in Canada. The lack of competition, crushing the consumer in Canada.
It's a nightmare. I mean, we're all just going to have to become vegetarians, aren't we, at this rate? Beef and chicken now sort of becoming unaffordable.
The contrast in the United States is striking. American wholesale boneless chicken breast prices recently fell to roughly, listen to this, you ready for this? Boneless, skinless chicken breast prices roughly fell to $1 US a pound. $1. In Canada, comparable wholesale prices, $13 a kilo. So that's a kilo, so 2.2 pounds. So you either cut that in half or add that up. So it's $2 a pound, what, $2.20 versus, or $2.20 a kilo versus $13 a kilo.
Wow.
$2.40 actually.
I don't know why has he not done why has he not converted that?
Yeah. So $2.40 plus US, I don't know if that's Canadian price, but it doesn't even matter, right? It doesn't even matter if that's a US price. So even give it, even with a bad calculation, $5 a pound or $5 a kilo in the United States versus 13 in Canada. So I got some news though, and this is going to be interesting. So we're going to do something on June 19th here. Is it June 19th? What's the calendar here? I'm going to pull the calendar up here. My calendar seems to have quit here. June 22nd, Ian and I, our last show will be June 19th while we take a bit of a break here. On June 22nd to 26th, I'm going to travel down to the United States, and I'm going to do this big loop. And I'm going to check out some of these things, and I'm going to look and see what all these prices are and what the comparisons are, and see how poorly I get treated, how I get roughed up at the border and all that kind of stuff. See how bad it is. I'm going to go down there for you. I'm going to experience that, and Ian's going to get a haircut from his mom. At the same time. That's how long it's going to take. And then we're working on something for the following week, because Ian's going to be off for 2 weeks, but we're going to bring the show back on the 29th, and it'll be the 29th, 30th, 2nd, and 3rd. We'll be off on the 1st, so just so everybody knows. Anyway, I'm going to go down there and see how bad it is. And I'll probably put some breaks in there and stuff like that to show you like these prices. It's crazy. And here's another thing for the food professor. Again, he does more work in the food industry than the CBC, CTV, and Global combined. U.S. dairy industry argues Canada using its supply management system to generate surplus dairy proteins and exporting them through product categories not explicitly capped under CUSMA. And they want that addressed. Canada has been very sneaky on many things in CUSMA, and they've done a lot of sneaky things, and we try to pretend that we've been innocent in all this, but it's been pointed out several times. Canada's the one that broke a lot of these deals. Let's try some honesty. Let's try that. Yeah, Jim's
It's
going to
just
move to
so
Wyoming
backward.
and
It's
buy a
all-
Ford
it's all just
F-150
to
and well.
protect-
What's that?
It's all just to protect minorities. It doesn't help us at all. It's to protect tiny groups of people in that sector.
And look at this. Tim Hortons trying to do some brand protection or brand rehabilitation, brand damage control, whatever you want to call it. The president, Tim Hortons, is going to join the food professor on a podcast this week. I mean, Tim Hortons has done some really bad stuff in Canada with its hiring and all that kind of stuff. Look at this clip here, the Tim Hortons. And now play this clip here. Tim Hortons, this is their latest ad. And you tell me if this seems like the Tim Hortons you experienced today.
Hi, I'm Bill.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Come meet our team.
We've been Tim Hortons restaurant owners for 21 years. When we're hiring team members, we look for people that just love people.
My name is Deb, and I've worked at Tim Hortons for 34 years. So I choose to keep coming back to Tim's because of the people, staff, and customers, people I see daily, and the new people that come in the doors every day.
My name is Lauren, and I've worked at Tim Hortons for 5 years. My favorite thing would be the coworkers that you forge relationships as well as the customers.
My name is Stacy, and I've been working for Tim Hortons for almost 40 years. One thing I wish people knew about working at Tim Hortons is the opportunities that we have to offer. You can be multi-trained in every area, every aspect of the business.
I wish people knew about the Tim Hortons Scholarship Program. I had the opportunity to apply and receive it in 2025 and put it towards my university studies.
If I could give one piece of advice, it would be, don't let the nerves get to you and just take it one day at a time.
You buying it?
It says always on the front there, always fresh since 1964. I think they recorded that video in 1964, didn't they? I don't know how they got it in HD in color, but there you go.
Is that the Tims you're experiencing today, people? Is that the Tims you experience today? Is that the Tims that has taken advantage of the Temporary Foreign Workers Program, that has driven its corporate profits at the expense of the Canadian public? Is that the Tims that is using the Ministry of Immigration as their HR department? Is that the Tims? Is that the Tims that still continues to lobby for temporary foreign workers? It doesn't want to pay. It made up all these lies that Canadians don't want to work there, and all of a sudden their whole staff there is all white. Hey, wow, pretty impressive, Tim.
Well, the staff all speak English, I would say. It'd probably be more to the point. Many a time I've been there and had to offer some English lessons. English is a foreign language.
I say don't shop at Tim's until youth unemployment is below 9%. And they should pay billions in damages that they cost the Canadian economy. And how many millions of Canadians waiting on wait lists and ER rooms? How many died on waiting lists because of Tim's driving corporate profits? How about the story of the Tim's? I think the guy bought 4 franchises in Ontario and then fired all the staff that had been working there, some of them for 30 years, so they could hire temporary foreign workers. How about that, Tim? Why don't you play that commercial for us, Tim?
Leave Tim out of it.
Anita and Nan and the rest of the crew, like I'd never seen so many liberal posts and all at once, all the same messaging. Today, like this one here from Anita and Nan, they're all dolled up there, shopping at, like Ian points out, shopping at a boutique grocery place where most Canadians can't afford to shop, advertising this benefit here, groceries and essentials benefit, which is the GST credit. They rebranded it because why not? Hey, why not? Rebrand it. But again, most outlets fail to share the real truth of who gets the benefit here. And I did a post, and you can go find it on my LinkedIn. I also put it on my X, and you can go find it. Basically, if you do the comparison, and I compared a working couple that has 2 kids, and I did the comparison just on a napkin kind of thing, and I used Ontario. And then the husband making $50K, and the wife, part-time juggling, making $45K. which is barely just over minimum wage, they basically get no benefits. They get none of it. So they make $90K between the two of them, $95K. And actually, I had the link there. I'm going to go find it because it's crazy. The amount of tax, I think that couple pays over $20,000 a year in tax. That's what they pay. Pretty wild. And then the other couple is asylum seekers, rejected asylum seekers. And sorry, I got to find this here. I should have put it in here. I'm going to find the graphic here.
It's a nice little blazer she's got on there, at least.
She's very fancy, eh? Very fancy.
I mean, it's considering her very, very limited abilities. You know, her cognitive deficit.
So the working family, $95,000 between the working family, that's the husband and wife there. They're going to pay just under $20,000 in tax. They're going to get a reduced child benefit for their two kids, around $3,500. They're going to get zero on the GST credit. And then so their disposable income at the end of the year is going to be in the, that's including their credits, around $80,000. Now the benefits-based family, the ones that get this money from the government, the asylum seekers and that, they're going to get the full $14,000 for child care benefits. They're going to get the GST credit of $1,500. There's another Ontario Trillium benefit of $1,200. There's an income assistance of $27,000. There's a housing benefit of $18,000. So neither one of them work, and they're coming in around the same amount of money, $80,000. And then there's the bigger one out there that nobody talks about is the underground economy. There's a lot of people in that group there that they claim a little bit of income. The dad's reported income of $30,000. Mom's reported zero. They make out like bandits. They make out like bandits. So, and then plus the unreported income of $90,000. Like just say they made around the same amount, $90,000. But they get the full child tax benefit of $13,000. They get the full GST credit. They get the Ontario Trillium benefit. So they end up walking away with $101,000 in spendable money. Who's the stupid one? So they tout all this money that everybody's going to get. But I mean, basically, if you're making a single person, if you make over $56,000 and have no children, you get zero. And if you have a family, a maximum combined income is $74,000, right? So I mean, that's not a lot. I mean, most households, if you have two kids and two parents, you're not surviving on $74,000 a year. But I mean, they talk about how, all these Canadians are going to get this money. And even if you do get the money, it amounts to, I watched a clip from somebody that says it amounts to like 1 week of shopping for some people. Is it really helping? But what it did help is their social media accounts, because look at all the money that was spent. Imagine if you could take that money that the photographers and all these posts that were done, all that. And maybe I didn't explain it as clearly and concisely as Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is going to explain it because the same thing's happening in the United States. So Rubio is more eloquent than I. He's just quiet, that's all. We're waiting for Rubio, he's shy.
Doesn't want to come out of his shell. Come on.
One of the things I see a lot in South Florida are people that have been in this country that maybe came from Cuba 45 years ago. They've worked here their entire lives. They retire. They get $800, $900, $1,000 a month from Social Security. And then they run into somebody who just got here from Cuba 3 months ago, is 29 years old, doesn't work, and is given $1,500 a month in benefits by our government because they're refugees. That refugee, a year later, is traveling back to Cuba 15 times. So you're a refugee fleeing oppression from a place that you now go back and visit 15 times the following year. And in the meantime, we're giving you Medicaid, food stamps, health care for your children, cash payments from the refugee fund. So imagine if you've been working here for 40 years and your Social Security check is smaller than the benefits going to a 28-year-old able-bodied person who just got here. That's real. That happens. That's happening every day. That makes no sense.
Hear, hear. As Steve McKinnon would say, hear, hear. Like, I mean, how many times have we highlighted this? Canadians that have been busting their tail all their lives get less on CPP than the people that come from a foreign nation that are claiming asylum, that have been denied asylum, get more money. Veterans treated like crap. Something's
If you
wrong.
want to know why, if you're interested in why this has happened, just listen to Mark Carney and Louise Arbour this morning, because she was officially sworn in as Governor General this morning. Listen to their speeches. In both of their speeches, they talked about the world, the whole world and everybody in it, and how she talked about how, the world looks to Canada for guidance and things like that, and how envious people are of what we have here in Canada. Mark Carney spoke about how everybody deserves dignity. It doesn't just matter. It's not just based on their nationality, where they're born, what their passport says. Everybody deserves to be looked after and all the rest of it. Yeah, what happens when you apply that rather shallow, simplistic thinking to running a country? You get things like this. Random foreigners walk across the border in New York, between New York and Quebec, arrive and say, yeah, I'm gay or something. Or somebody wants to kill me in Bangladesh, lol. What do I do? And then, because Mark Carney, Louise Arbour, those people have been at the top of Canadian politics for so long, they've set the tone. And indeed, the legal system, they've established it so that that person is then indulged. And it's like, oh, well, just because they were born somewhere else, we still have obligations to these people. So let's look after them. And in the process, they end up looking after them more than they do their own people, who they're actually responsible for, rather than random foreigners.
Well, those are globalist ideals, and the globalists want open borders, and there's a reason for that. Again, if you ever get a chance, read Stephen Harper's book. It talks about everywheres and anywheres, and it explains it very well. I was going to do this piece on real estate here, but I'm gonna get a guy to come on, could explain, because right now in Toronto and Vancouver, there's some serious bad stuff happening in those two markets, with mortgage defaults, people getting sued, people can't close on things, mortgage resets. But we're going to get somebody on to talk about it more in depth than just covering it there like that. Radio gets forever licensing. Why not? I don't know who's listening. Commercial radio stations would receive forever licenses under CRTC proposal detailed Friday. Regulations open for public comment on July 6th. Would extend AM/FM license into perpetuity, saving station operators the cost of attending regular renewal hearings every 5 to 7 years. I don't know. Do you listen to radio anymore?
I listen to CBC Radio 1 now and then, just so I can
see what's going on.
Be confirmed in my prejudices about CBC.
I don't even know if there's a radio in my car.
They shoehorn in their pet ideology into literally everything. Literally everything. If they're talking about swimming or something, something like the most basic thing, it'll be like they'll get it in there. They'll get their stuff in there, their ideology.
I'm not sure I have a radio in my car. If there is one, I haven't seen it yet. How's that? There could be. It's a Tesla, so maybe there is one in the screen somewhere, but I've never looked for it. So
digital. Yeah.
I don't know. The CRTC there. I think private commercial radio stations comprise 81% of the radio market in Canada. Current licenses number 747 stations, including 628 FM broadcasters and 119 AM stations. The industry payrolls approximately totals just under 7,000 employees. I mean, the radio stations have been cutting, a lot of syndication going on. I remember in this Kelowna market when I first moved here 20 years ago, like just to get a license was like $1 million just to get a license, and it took forever to apply for a license. And I think in this last little while, I think Bell sold I think they had like 4 stations in market, 3 or 4 stations. And then plus they sold a bigger group. I think they sold 13 stations for $1.5 million or something like that, plus the debt that went with it. Radio is a shell of what it was. Yet, they're still at the government bowl there looking for money as this Carney government extended funding for journalism to radio and television as well.
Disappointed though, as on a side note, very disappointed in Blacklocks for spelling license and licenses incorrectly there a couple of times. We do it with a C here, mate.
Consistent though, eh? Consistent.
Consistently wrong. That's true.
Here's a piece in Alberta. They've got a little bit on the provincial stuff. Alberta, we talk about on the show lots. Alberta is the engine of Canada right now. The bright spots, Saskatchewan along with that. Listen to Danielle Smith here.
In addition, just looking at the numbers, so once again, we, month over month, created new jobs. We have created 291,000 jobs since we came out of COVID in October 2022. And even just in this last year, if you look year over year, Alberta has created 104,000 jobs. The entire rest of the country has created 43,000. This is an economy that is an incredibly powerful job creator. And it's because of the policies we've put in place.
Alberta the engine. Wonder why Alberta's the engine. And wouldn't you look at it and say, let's do more of that. Let's do more of that. As opposed to more Alto. Because what does Alto create at the end of the day? The Liberals will tell you, jobs, jobs, jobs. Jobs for the elite, right? But are they actually doing anything? How do you get on Alto? Like, how do you become a VP? I think I'm going to apply.
You got to be in the team. And you're not.
This one you put in, let you take the lead on. The UK paper of record slams Canada's leaders over fantasy claim of 215 graves in Kamloops. And that's the Times newspaper discusses the fantasy indulged by the likes of Justin Trudeau that 215 children had been found dead in the Kamloops Indian residential school in 2021. The article also highlighted the lack of responsibility from Canadian leaders who, for the most part, have not yet apologized for the false claims. Activists and politicians love to talk about the accountability, but only in regard to other people when it emerges that they're the ones who screwed up, who denounced innocent journalism, exploited the pain of vulnerable people, muddied the facts of real tragedy, used graves for a photo shoot with a teddy bear. Suddenly the past is ancient history and we should all get over it. I mean, they just tried to pass a bill that said if you said anything about this, you could end up in jail for 2 years.
Yeah. Because they haven't learned their lesson, and also they don't show humility when they make mistakes. You know, when they give credence to a conspiracy theory, which was religiously, aggravated, one may say. It was directed specifically at one religious group as well as one ethnic group, wasn't it? But it wasn't, it hasn't been apologized for. I don't think Justin Trudeau's even gone back there, has he? I don't think he's even talked about it. I mean, not literally gone back there, but sort of even in conversation. It was too convenient. This is what what I said, it was too. And she even says this a bit in this article, where it was like, because it came at about the time of the George Floyd moral panic in the US, and obviously that infected Canada as well, didn't it? And other parts of the West. It was too convenient. This was Canada's own Holocaust in many ways, wasn't it? It was beyond the George Floyd thing. It was like, this was Canada's like great evil sin, like, you know, like massacre or something like that, that could be looked at in the whole. I'm sure that some people they had so many plans for this. I'm sure like that this could be a whole cottage industry talking about this great savage massacre and the brutality of Canada, and why there needs to be even more of a revolution in the here and now. We need to give even more power to unscrupulous figures and completely change our institutions so that they benefit a small clique that talks about stuff like this all the time. Turns out it was a false alarm. It was fake. It's not real. And rather than apologize and say, we won't do that again, we've learned our lesson, it's just sort of dying quietly, isn't it? It's just on the fringes, on the margins. There's no big speech. There's no attempt to take responsibility. There's no like being the adult in the room. You know, you don't get that from people like Justin Trudeau or Mark Carney or the Liberal Party, do you? You just get this sort of infantile attitude and avoidant personality disorder, basically. And this is the Times. I mean, the Globe and Mail's already had a go. New York Times ages ago, Wall Street Journal. The whole world is kind of looking at Canada in a different light as a consequence of this disaster, this fantasy, as she calls it in this article. You know, if you were bothered about Canada's reputation, you might try and sort of fix this, come clean about it. But I don't think the Liberal Party or the people that run Canada, the liberal sort of establishment, I don't think they are bothered about Canada's reputation, really.
And just for the viewers, what is the Times newspaper? Is it a fringe, far-right extremist publication?
The Times is the original Times, you know? I always find it funny when Americans say, oh, I read it in the Times. It's just like, all right, you've been reading a British newspaper. But obviously they are ignorant of the fact that this is the Times, which was, I believe it was first published in the 1700s. But it's one of Britain's oldest papers. It's considered to be the paper of record, even though it's nowhere near as good as it used to be, but whatever. I mean, this is the mainstream newspaper in Britain, pretty much. There's nothing that comes close to being sort of middle of the roadie.
Did they mention the CBC's lack of journalistic integrity?
I don't think so, to be honest. I don't think the CBC is such a little fish in the world. I don't think people even, by and large, I don't think people even know it exists. But, I mean, maybe she did, actually. She mentioned the Globe and Mail, obviously, because the Globe and Mail article is what's triggered this. She quotes from the Globe and Mail article. But, yeah, I mean, it's not much about the CBC anyway, if she does mention it. A lot of it is about the likes of Justin Trudeau faking it, you know, and pouring gasoline on the fire. You know, not just metaphorically, since quite a lot of churches were burned down after this, weren't they? I mean, causality not really been determined, but one can't help but assume that played into it somewhat.
And here's another one where, depending on your perception or what you're trying to do, to say the story on Henry Nowak here, CBC's coverage, how Britain's far right hijacked the murder of Henry Nowak, and the U.S. Department of State, their response, ideological condition and two-tiered policing are glaring symptoms of civilization decline. They must be rejected across the West. It's weird, eh? CBC, is it an activist? Because, I mean, a lot of their headlines seem more activist kind of leaning as opposed to, like, it's supposed to be the public broadcaster is supposed to be the voice of Canada. The voice of Canada. And it's been hijacked. That's what's been hijacked.
It's ideological, certainly. I mean, it does have an activist bent to it, but primarily I would refer to it as ideological. It's progressivism. I mean, for want of a better word, I don't really like that term progressivism because it makes it sound like it's advanced and it's going to sort of take us to the stars or something like that. But it's not really that kind of progress. It's not good progress. It's progressing towards a kind of sad, slimy authoritarianism, passive-aggressive authoritarianism. But that is what the CBC is anyway. It's a progressive, an ideologically progressive news outlet. And I don't think, I mean, there's a couple of daft people who literally work for CBC, manage CBC, who claim that it's not that. But I mean, they're basically the only people on the planet at this point who say that.
Yeah, including Brody. There's a little clip there last week. Hard
to take him seriously, I'm afraid. Very difficult to take somebody like that seriously.
Somebody said in the comments that the logo for the CBC is just like bologna slices. Maybe that's fitting, bologna.
It looks like an apple that's been...
Talking about taking it to the stars. Looks like the Ontario teachers' pension plan is making out like bandits here as their investment of $300 million in SpaceX is turning into $11.6 billion. Talk about payday there as they invested into that fascist organization. They should give that money back. They shouldn't take that money from a fascist. Ill-gotten gains.
Well, it won't surprise anybody to learn that there are an awful lot of teachers in schools in Canada who subscribe to that very ideology that we just discussed, progressivism. And progressivism's, you know, it has a number of demons and devils, but certainly one of the more important demons right now in their sort of religious worldview is Elon Musk, the man behind SpaceX. So one would assume, yeah, that when their money comes in, when it lands in their bank account, they're going to, I don't know, donate some of it. They're going to figure out how to get rid of the SpaceX element of it. I don't know.
They should, because, I mean, why would they want to take profits from that person, that evil empire? They should just demand their $300 million back and walk away. And, you know, that I could get, I'd retweet that one.
But again, there's another reason why progressivism so, you know, it doesn't have too many admirers among the people that aren't adherents to the religion. There aren't very many people that respect it, are there? Because there are no principles. There's no, like, the behavior is so hypocritical. It's so, like, lazy and half-assed, isn't it? Like, they claim to have all these values that mean the world to them. And then they do things like this, and it's like, oh, well, you know, and nothing happens. You can respect certain movements, religious movements from history, because, you know, like, why did Christianity originally gain traction? It's because people were so committed to Christianity that they would die. They martyred themselves. They went and got their heads cut off and got thrown to the lions and all the rest of it because they believed in it so strongly. With the progressive religion, you don't, and same for Islam, by the way, lots of other religions, but with progressivism, you don't even say that. They're not even willing to, like, lose a few dollars over it, you know what I mean? So how can you respect a religion like that? I don't know.
The dollar sign, all important. And then a lot of people, it's SpaceX IPO. I think it's coming, is it this week or next week? I think next week. And if you want a piece of that IPO, you can download the Wealthsimple app and you can sign up for Wealthsimple. And if you want it, the reallybigshow.ca, there's a link there and you get $25 if you open it. But if you want a piece of it, you can get at it. It's not like they're not making any money already. Look at this. Google's agreed to pay, I think we found this out on Friday, pay $920 million a month for computing power. And that's after Anthropic, I think, is paying $1.2 billion a month. So those two deals alone for SpaceX are almost $2 billion a month just in computing power. That's what they're getting from SpaceX. And SpaceX is going to be doing AI data centers in space. This is, again, just for terrestrial AI in Grok there when Elon Musk set up XAI there. Colossus, and they're just renting some of the space out. I mean, you know what, in those XAIs, Colossus, you know how they got it up and running? He got all those the GPUs from NVIDIA, Jensen Huang. You know what he's using for power? Because power is one of the shortage things they have down there. It's like you can't access enough power. Because nuclear takes forever.
Solar?
Wind, solar, it just won't do it. Yeah, mobile LNG plants. Mobile LNG plants. I think like 11 of them. Fired up. No business case for LNG.
A mobile gassing vehicle. I'm sure I can already imagine the article in the left-wing press. Elon Musk driving around his mobile gas units.
Well, because it fast tracks it, because if you do permanent ones, you have to do all the permitting and that. So if you do the mobile ones, you can do them as temporary and get them up running fast and while you're building the actual ones. So no business case for LNG. Turns out there's a lot of business cases for LNG.
There's always a business case for energy. I mean, if you have the least ambition, the least sort of creativity, there is always massive demand for energy, any kind of energy, because you can convert it into good stuff, better lives for people.
So Diggsy, who I've met here in person actually, Diggsy says that he wants a piece of that SpaceX stock, but the initial IPO is going to be overpriced. It's an interesting IPO in that it is priced. It's not a range. It's priced at 135 US. It's priced at 135. So if you want a piece of it, get yourself the Wealthsimple app. That's all I know in Canada. I don't know who else has it. Maybe some other people are carrying it. I think RBC is carrying it as well. And then you can put your name in for some of that IPO. And the other thing that Elon Musk has done, which is unusual in IPOs, he's allocated 30% of the float to the retail public, which is unheard of. Usually it's like 5% or something like that. So not bad for a fascist, eh? Ron Barron of SpaceX.
By the way.
What's that?
Epictetus. His username is, or her username is Epictetus 5. Who just said the logo of the CBC should be a middle finger pointed towards the taxpayers and gave us a sausage roll allowance.
It should be a large hand reaching into your heart and ripping it out. That's what it should be. Ron Barron, who's made most of his money with Elon Musk, he says SpaceX will become the largest, most profitable company on the planet. I mean, I'm a big Elon Musk. I'll just say it, fanboy of all this stuff. I mean, I've been driving his stuff for, it's unbelievable. Like, I mean, I don't drive really anymore. I mean, every now and then, if I don't like the way the car is going, like if I don't like the direction and like the route it shows, I just kind of take over. But other than that, it's been great for my shoulders. Apparently, foreigners making cash on Facebook promoting Alberta independence. That's from a report. I don't understand how it works. Small number of Facebook accounts based overseas promoting Alberta independence and even being paid for it, according to a study published by none other than CBC News. So it's got to be true. The national broadcaster said it found 14 foreign profiles in popular Alberta separation groups. The accounts appeared to be from Indonesia, Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, and the United States, according to the article. People sitting thousands of miles away working on that Canadian outrage is a profitable niche. I think they may not actually care about Canadian politics at all. I mean, the same ones that were doing it for the Liberal Party and were attacking Pierre, is that the same people? It's odd that they only want to highlight it when it's that way, right?
Of course, it's just an attempt to, this is a, this is just an attempt to discredit. It's a discrediting operation by the establishment. But if you actually read the story, there isn't much to it at all. 14 profiles. So they just went on a hunt basically to see if they could find some Americans involved, and they ended up digging up some people from Indonesia, Pakistan, India. I mean, the Indians particularly are famous for this. They've figured out that they can kind of grift the culture wars, as it were, on Twitter and places like that, and make money from the algorithm that ends up being quite a substantial amount of money to them in US dollars, even though it wouldn't be to your average American or whatever. And that's why Elon Musk, or I don't know if it was actually Elon personally, but X changed how much money you get based on what country you're in, because people were gaming the system. That's all this is. This is like a totally ubiquitous phenomenon ever since the social media companies started to give money out, like a share of the ad revenue. Ever since that happened, people quite obviously, I mean, does anybody fail to understand why they would do this? People in poorer countries start saying, oh, hold on, if I just put a picture of myself as like a blonde woman or a blonde man or something like that, and start like pretending to be Mr. USA or Mr. Sweden or whatever it is, and like, you know, just regurgitate these memes about some contentious topic, I can make like maybe $50 a month or something like that, which is actually quite substantial. It's quite a significant amount of money, obviously. But like I said, the reason that you've noticed it immediately, the reason that CBC have focused on this one aspect of it, it's like getting a microscope and they've zoomed in on like a massive piece of paper or something. They've zoomed in on one little aspect, and
what they
just so
needed.
they can have that headline. And the headline is basically foreign interference, because most people don't read the story, obviously. So it just becomes foreign interference in Alberta separation. Oh, it's just foreigners. Like it's not really people in Alberta that want to be away. But I mean, come on, if you need to be spoon-fed that, then you've just got no hope. You're not media literate, I'm sorry to say, and you need to work on it. But I feel like most people will click and they'll get that straight away.
I've interviewed the guy from Second Street in the past. Think tank secondstreet.org released data from BC health regions today showing people from outside Canada coming to BC receiving health services and not paying their bills. They'd put the taxpayer on the hook for $200 million since 2020, 2021. And also put many Canadians at risk at ER lineups and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like access to healthcare in British Columbia, tough one to get, right? I mean, we were actually sending patients to Washington for treatment. Washington.
That's a substantial amount of money, isn't it, when you think about it on just a provincial level?
And what they're saying is provincial health regions could require visitors abroad to pay up front before receiving medical treatment. In the United States, I mean, that's what they kind of do down there. You want to get treated? Show me the money. Show me the money.
Well, this has been happening in Britain. You know, Britain's healthcare system is called the National Health Service, the NHS. For a long time now, people have been joking about it and calling it the International Health Service, because people just turn up. They go to the hospitals, and the sort of do-gooders in the hospitals are like, oh, of course we'll help you with whatever it is. They get like huge amounts of money spent on them on treatment, and then they just like bugger off back to, you know, wherever it is, Karachi or something like that, never to be seen again. So yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that it's also happening in BC. It's going to be happening all over Canada. It won't just be a BC thing.
This is the voting intentions, BC. This is from Mario Canseco here. You can see the Conservatives, the blue line, edging into like the even-Steven category there with the NDP, and then the Greens, and then, you know, one BC, I don't know, and center BC, one BC and center BC. Kind of, it's starting to look like a German political system, eh? Many
traffic
parties.
lights, yeah. But I mean, it's still first past the post, whereas the Germans are too daft. The Germans are just ridiculous, God bless them. They couldn't handle first past the post, so that's why they end up in those ridiculous coalitions. But BC still, for now at least, first past the post, so you don't need to be like uber dominant to form a majority. You just need whatever it is, 45, something like that, 46%, whatever it ends up being. So it's still on the cards. But I mean, the worry, I guess, for the Conservative Party is that, yeah, there will be a traffic light coalition on the other side. You know, NDP, Greens, and whoever else wants to join that party, and maybe they could block off a minority government from the BC Conservatives. But I don't know. Let's wait and see.
David Eby, if he had a slogan, it would be the harbinger of hate and division. But he's got a smile on his face. Look at this as he trots this out here. Listen to Mr. Eby.
I want to note the contrast in terms of approach here when it comes to the new leader of the Conservative Party. I mean, you sit down in politics, try to imagine, okay, well, what's the new leader going to do? What are the first sort of key things the new leader is going to do to really let British Columbians know what she stands for. And so is it going to be what seat she's going to run in? Is it a new policy announcement? Is it troublingly welcoming Jordan Keeley and Tara Armstrong back into caucus? Turned out to be none of those things. The first policy announcement was that the new leader of the Conservatives, Carolyn Finley, will economically support an independent Alberta. This was a commitment that sovereigntists in Alberta welcomed as, quote, helpful, unquote. And this evening, her first major event as leader of the opposition is to travel to Calgary to attend Danielle Smith's partisan fundraiser in that city. Now, I don't know what it's going to take for the BC Conservatives to stand up for Canada, to stand up for British Columbians, to insist that our country is better together.
You're not exactly mending fences there, buddy.
He just tries to, it's like death by gossip, isn't it? He tries to kill reputations. It's like the sort of the gossipy person at the school or something who just tries to make the lives of his enemies impossible, or of his adversaries, just by spreading these like rumors and this gossip all the time. It's so like passive aggressive, isn't it? It's it's hard to stomach. But as usual, he's pulling the old card from, more strongly associated with the likes of, various 20th century dictators. Choose your 20th century dictator. The strategy of impugning the loyalty and patriotism of your political opponents, suggesting that they don't really believe in the country. You do. They're the ones that are going to protect the country and the people, the Volk, if you will. Whereas the opponents are just going to break it all up and destroy it and make everything weak and anarchic and feeble, and the country will suffer as a consequence. I mean, David Eby, I don't think is intelligent or well-read enough to know any of that, but that is absolutely his strategy. His go-to strategy is to cast doubt on the patriotism of his opponents. The loyalty would be another way to look at it, which is, it's very, very troubling if you believe in a liberal society, a free, open, liberal society.
One of David Eby's favorite straw men is Donald J. Trump. And one of the things Trump does more so than any politician here in Canada is he sits down with media he doesn't even like, and he'll sit through interviews, well, mostly sit through interviews. And
not this one.
He sat through most of it. He was there for quite a while. And I think the Rain, I guess they were there for quite a while. But he's there with Kristen Welker there. And, they're talking. We won't play that clip yet. But he's, you got a strong jobs report. And of course, Donald there. Not strong, really strong, beat expectations. And then by how much triple. Yeah. It was a strong, we showed you that on Friday. It was a strong jobs report. The market reacted negatively to it because they think interest rates would go the other way. Again, the economy in the United States is on fire compared to the Canadian economy. They're two different. One on a launch pad and one careening off of a cliff, all because of self-inflicted policies. I mean, that's the kind of like the what our show is. On paper, Canada's super strong on paper. I mean, what Ian just shared with you just moments ago about the Governor General and that, it's these same policies that sound like, from the Governor General and Mark Carney are going to continue. Open borders, you getting put last, you're talking about you work your tail off. There's a couple, we showed you the example, a couple barely making over minimum wage, between the two of them with two kids, they don't get any of this GST credit. They actually they can't afford to give. They take money off this young couple's table that barely make minimum wage. They take food off their table and distribute it to people that don't even want to work, that should not even be in this country, or people that aren't reporting their income. They take food off their table and then step up at the podium like they're some goddamn hero about it, how they've distributed liberal money. No, that was the money you took off somebody that couldn't afford to give it to you. You took money from them, forcibly took money from them, and then gave it to somebody else that doesn't deserve it or shouldn't qualify for it. And then you stand at the podium like you're done something great and you do a bunch of fake photo ops.
But like, why as well? What possesses you to stand there in the Senate building in Ottawa and start talking about foreigners tens of thousands of miles away and how they, like that's your priority in this very short speech that you've got to make? You start talking about the dignity of everyone regardless of where they were born and so on. What's that got to do with Canada? You're in the Senate. I mean, people that know Ottawa, the city, I mean, you're in the Senate building, which is about, 2,000 feet as the crow flies away from Bywood Market. Literally walk down one street, turn left, and you're in Bywood Market, where, I don't know, I mean, this might be boring to people who don't know, but right there, literally right next to where not Mary Simon, that was the other useless one, where Louise Arbour and Mark Carney were chatting about foreigners needing all this respect and needing dignity and everything. Literally about 2,000 feet away from where they're standing, there's like homeless anarchy, craziness going on with people addicted to drugs and have nowhere to stay and no food, all kinds of things like that, just unbelievable trouble. And they are their sort of co-citizens. That's their countrymen. But they stand there and talk about how the rest of the world needs fixing. You haven't even begun to fix your own country. What the hell are you doing worrying about the rest of the world? Madness.
Policies that benefit the few at the expense of the many. But, you got to really look at it. And Poilievre, I don't know if he's doing this getting the point across enough. They're literally taking money off tables from families that cannot afford to give more. Like, they're taking food off the table so they can't afford to feed their family properly here in Canada. And they're giving it to people that don't deserve it or shouldn't get it. They're getting more than they get. And they're working, they're going to work every goddamn day, working hard.
Other countries are responsible for those people. That would be a way to look at it. There's another system, there are other taxpayers, there are other leaders who are responsible for those people. It's not a Canadian responsibility.
But they stand up there and talk about like it's their money, that the Liberals are giving out this money. It's not their money. It's they took it off the table, off people that can't afford to give it. And the media in Canada is the problem. And then that's why this show is so important. And that's why if you could share this and get it out to as many people as possible, that would be appreciated. Like, share, subscribe, share it everywhere you can. Again, we have Sam Cooper on Thursday and Aaron Pete on Friday, and I think we've got another guest looking at Wednesday. But again, a strong media is the foundation of democracy. And here's the end of this interview as Donald Trump has had enough of Kristen Welker and gets up.
Evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk
your
about
elections in this country. We're like a third world country. Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know.
I've sat in the rain with you for an hour, on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press because you know what?
Mr. President,
a country can never be great with a dishonest
Listen,
press.
we traveled all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
She was delighted there. Absolutely delighted. See? They're in her high heels with hay bales and John Deere tractors. What the hell was that setup?
The media has a lot of apologizing to do. A lot of apologizing to do. And I mean, come clean. CBS did a little bit. Tony Ducapoyle did come clean a little bit. Not enough. But I mean, they're trying to do better work for sure at CBS. But Kristen Welker, I mean, watch your stuff. CBC. The thing is we don't have a GB News here. We don't have a Fox that presents the other side. You know what I mean? Like, maybe Fox has some some bias for sure. But at least, you get Fox and CNN, and somewhere in the middle you can watch, and somewhere maybe there's some truth. But I say this to the Canadian public and to the Canadian politicians here. This is a message for Carney and for Polyev and the rest. They keep talking about how you have to rescue the media here in Canada. That's why Bill C-18 is necessary. That's why all this funding for journalism. How did America do it? How's America? How is Fox surviving? Fox is thriving, actually. How is Fox thriving? How are all these podcasts thriving? How is, CNN still there? They're there. Let the public pay for it. If they want it, they'll pay for it. Get out of the goddamn way. Stop using tax money to create a subservient media here in Canada. That's the problem in Canada. We need a free and independent media. And I'm going to bang that drum until there's no drum left, until I guess they come and put Ian and I in some kind of re-education camp with the Borg or something. I don't know.
We'll be somewhere like this, won't we? We'll be carrying hay bales around.
Hay bales around for Kristen. Welker will be just like, is this good, Kristen? Can we put it over here? Should we put it over here? Is this good?
Yeah.
We're writing lines on the board. I will not disparage the Liberal Party. I will not. And then I'll say, I can't spell disparage. And I'll get extra lines for that.
That's why you're here, man. That's why you're in this camp. But then Anita Anand will be the overseer. So what is that? You'll be able to spell a lot more words than she could. So
yeah, she won't know if I spell it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Elon Musk is jumping in on Germany now as well. AfD party experienced an unprecedented surge in polls. I think there's a shift happening in the world for sure as they jam this nonsense down people's throats.
But because this is not first past the post. Again, like I was just saying about Germany, that's not that big of a deal, really. AfD 28%, but then the CDU there, Christian Democratic Union or whatever that party is, they'll just do a traffic light coalition with the Socialists, the SPD, and probably the Greens as well. And then they'll have more than AfD. So, I mean, it'll be consequential, I suppose. They could be like the opposition or something, but I don't think the AfD is going to become the government because it was the German constitution after the Second World War was created in such a way as to prevent that, to stop that from happening. To stop a non-establishment party gaining power.
This has got to be the most corrupt weasel on the planet. I don't know. I guess he's got some competition, but your old friend, you've interviewed him in the past. We got to get him on the show.
He looks more like a ferret, doesn't he? He does have a very ferret-like appearance.
Stuff that comes out of his mouth, like he's like David Eby's got a lot of work to do to catch up to this guy for sanctimonious, virtuous. I don't know what you want to call him. The leader of the religion here. Let's go, Keir. Let's hear it.
That is why today I'm calling on tech companies operating in this country to introduce device controls that prevent children from sending and receiving sexually explicit images. Because this is not an impossible challenge. These are some of the most innovative companies in the world, and I believe they can solve it. But if they choose not to, then we will act, and we will change the law. Because when it comes to the safety of our children, standing by is not an option.
We must protect the children.
They're not going to be happy in Canada or in Britain there until you have no access to anything other than the CBC. And the whatever, I don't know what they would have just straight from Keir, straight into your living room today with your message of the day.
But no, it's also just low-hanging fruit, isn't it? It's like, who doesn't want to protect the kids kind of thing, It's like, it's an attempt to seem like he's on the side of right-thinking people and all the rest of it. But, there are many, many issues facing Britain. is this number one? You know, is this the number one priority? Is that even the priority for today? Do you know what I mean? Like that's when the questions start being asked. He's got a lot of things to try and fix. It's amazing that he can find the time to, you know, talk about this kind of thing.
Yeah. I do wanna play this here because D-Day on the 6th here. I just want to make sure in our really big salute that that we get this out here. I don't think we played it on Friday, did we?
I don't think so. No.
No. Let's play this little clip here because a lot of people fought for freedom that it seems like a lot of governments are trying to take away from us. Like we got to remember these men and women that stormed beaches and gave up their lives for freedom. A lot of people forget what they sacrificed. I mean, you look at that and you have to imagine the intensity of that as you're getting your briefing as you're going to storm a beach.
Yeah. Most of the participants were British Empire as well. Mostly British and Canadian.
A lot of people died in the mud there. And for fighting for freedom. And then today, as people don't remember what the sacrifices that were made, are these same ones that stand up like Keir there and talk about how we have to create more laws, more regulation, more strangulation, when all they thought they were fighting for was freedom, not for more regulation.
And increasingly, you get people from younger generations who sort of actively repudiate. They reject the Second World War, and as in one way or another. From the left, they say, "Oh, it was just an imperial white supremacist war" or some bollocks like that. And then from the right, they say, "This is a war that we never should have fought because it just ended in what we have now. It ended in Keir Starmer being Prime Minister of Britain and all these, you know, this progressive religion that's taken over every institution in the West." That's, you know, like as more time passes, it's becoming far more complicated. Like, I even remember when I was younger, I'm sure it's true when you were younger, it was like unambiguously, you know, this was the greatest moment in the history of the West. Like, we fought evil and tyranny, and it was like a just war, like literally the definition of a just war. And we should forever remember these heroes kind of thing. It's not really like that now, is it? Times have changed.
That's good. That's good. Like many lives are lost on that beach. And again, they answered the call, the rally for fight for freedom. Now the rally cry is give up your freedoms. Give up your freedoms for the benefit of the few at the expense of the many. All these things. It's not like, I mean, you said it best last week. If a nation is for anything, it's for the prosperity of its people. Why create a nation if not for the prosperity of its people? Why create the laws that are supposed to protect you if not for the people of the nation first? And you can't say that's happening in Canada right now. You can't say that. Like that GST thing, that's the latest, just, I guess the opposite of what that is. You're taking food off the table of people that can't afford to give. And you're giving it, and you're standing there and like you're acting like you're doing it out of the graciousness of your heart. It's the system is broken, and they keep breaking it by adding more regulations. And look at the prosperity beneath our feet. We started out with David Lynn telling you, on paper, Canada is a great, rich nation on paper. And we talk about it on the show all the time. We are way below our potential. And it's self-inflicted. That's the headline. Self-inflicted. It's all self-inflicted harm. Self-inflicted harm. By a leadership that, for some reason, the Canadian electorate still thinks it's in their best interest. And I say the key is the media that keeps telling the lies. Share this show wherever you can. Share it far and wide. Get truth out there, because the truth was once said very powerfully, shall set you free. And it's true. The truth shall set you free. And we need this guy right here. On this day in history, this guy right here, 1789, James Madison introduces the Bill of Rights. Where's our James Madison? He proposed 12 amendments to the
Anybody
Constitution.
even close to that? The Americans don't even have a James Madison. Never mind us.
And then, like visuals used to, like set the tone. And this visual here of the napalm girl there. And this is an AP photographer. When journalism was a thing, right? Like journalism now, like the mainstream stuff seems more activism than journalism.
There was a lot of activist journalism in Vietnam, to be fair, because the journalists, by and large, hated that war and wanted to end it, and got into activist mode by trying to, try to undermine the argument for the war in America, which they did.
But now the activism seems against the people, though. It seems to be the people of the regular Canadian worker is the target of this activism.
Don't you say worker? Just a regular Canadian?
What's that?
The average Canadian is the target?
Yeah. It's World Ocean Day, the biggest international observance. So if you never lived near an ocean, it's your big day. Corpus Christi holiday, and that's celebrated in Colombia and some other parts of Venezuela. You and I should go do a show from Venezuela. What do you think? Fly down to Venezuela, see how bad it is? It's the really big show, straight from Venezuela.
The Caracas
Ian and
episode.
I think we got to need to do a funder, and we got to go to the White House, and we do a show off the White House front lawn. Right? And show that we can actually get into the White House briefing room before we can get into Parliament here in Canada. Wouldn't that be wild? Hey? That would be absolutely wild. And it's your buddy's birthday today. I don't know if we have this. It's a king's birthday in parts of Australia.
Now, is it actually his birthday or is it the fake one?
What's that?
Is it really his birthday or is it the other one? Because they have like an official birthday and a real birthday.
I don't know.
No, it's not his actual birthday. His actual birthday is in November.
Well, he's the king. He has several birthdays.
It's so silly that they do that. It doesn't really make any sense.
Do the show from Argentina. Hey, that would be good. We should get Javier to invite us down there, the show on the road. Get the show on the road, hey? Ian and I have been talking about it. We got to do a road show for sure. We just got to figure out how to get some shekels. We got to get the knee off our, like the boot off our throat. We got to get the boot off our throat, but on Bill C-18 has to go. Anyway, if you want to help us, thereallybig.show.ca. Go there. You can make a contribution to independent media. You can you can do something here. You can join Thinking Canadians. There's a bunch of here, and we have our moderators. We want to thank them today. I don't know how busy they were today. It takes a lot of pressure off us from having to watch the comments that well. I mean, we try to watch them because we want to converse as well. And I agree with you there, Joe. There's only one king, right?
Yep, Elvis Presley.
I'll go with the two kings then. Arthur. Where is Arthur these days?
Arthur and Elvis.
Arthur and Elvis. We jest, surely. Anyway. Laura says we can do a show from the living room. Is the living room in Texas or where's the living room? I think it's on the East Coast, if I remember right. Isn't that right, Laura?
NC, maybe North Carolina. Got good accent in North Carolina, haven't they?
North Carolina, place to be.
It kind of is actually these days. It's very on the up.
There you go. I don't think we have anything else today, do we? light schedule on the docket today. We challenge all Liberals and NDP to come on the show. We get Conservatives to come on the show, get other people, but Liberals and NDP, their internet must be broken. The internet is broken. My 2 cents says thanks to Nick as well, and Andrea, take care. There you go. Nick on the board today. Thanks to Nick for coming in. And we're back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. PST. And again, the people in blue, thank you for helping moderate there. As part of the Thinking Canadians, we did a show on Thinking Canadians, and yeah, we'll let you know what's going to happen on the June 20. Is it 21st? What was the date? What did I say the date was? From the 22nd. From the 22nd, Ian and I will be here till the 19th, and then 22nd to 26th. I'm probably going to do some updates from the United States, and we'll play probably some of our interviews in the past. And then the 29th through the 3rd, I think we have a fill-in coming. We're just waiting to confirm that. And other than that, that's the Really Big Show. And we're working hard every day to bring you the truth. And if you could share, like, subscribe, get that out there as much as you can. And follow us on X and share that stuff like crazy. That X is starting to catch on for us. Our X is starting to do really well. I think we're on a few other things. Rumble. Not much going on there yet. Wake up, Rumble. Come on, Rumble. Come on, Rumble. Maybe we should ask Hunter Biden to come on. He seems to be active on social media.
I don't think we want to be associated with people like that, do we?
The artist. Maybe if we get that artist and Evan Solomon on the same time, the two great artists of this time. Oh, one's an art dealer and one's an artist. There you go.
Piss artist.
Anyway. Till tomorrow. Thanks for watching Now Media and the Really Big Show. Cheers.